So I heard that he went to the bottom of the page almost, but we'll go a little bit before that, just stop in the Mishnah again, just for myself, just to get back into it. So maybe we'll do a Mishnah inside if that's okay with everybody. We're on Daf, what is that again?
Before you say that,
yes, please.
Record, I was
Yeah, the game on. Uh-huh. Okay.
Rabbi, I'm sorry, your camera is off.
Oh, thank you for reminding me. Okay, so the Mishnah on Daf Yud Gimel was, is that, did I get, what did I just see? Daf Yud Gimel, yeah, okay. So the Mishnah on the bottom, they saw a woman speaking with somebody. So we'll see what speaking doesn't mean innocent speaking. We'll see soon that there's a chash of nus, so maybe the Gemara is going to say even vada is nus. But she was speaking with somebody, at least means in seclusion. And there's a chash that she was mezana. So they ask, who's that man that is in question? The suspect, the suspicion of the man. Who is he? The issue is that if he was a puzzle, a goy, or some kind of a man that's puzzle to her, so she's going to become puzzle to kuna. She had called nivala puzzle psula kuna. If she had relations with a man that's puzzle, so then she's not allowed to marry Kohen. She can marry Yisrael, but she can't marry a Kohen. So she says that he's a kosher man. Ish ploni v'kohen. She even tells us who he is. Doesn't make a difference too much what his exact identity is, but he's a kosher. He says even a Kohen, he's even a very, very kosher. As far as we're concerned, that means that he's not a puzzle. So she says that he's kosher. So again, what happened? We have a woman who was mizana, or chash mizana at least, and we don't know if the man. Well, she's not a married woman. If she's a married woman, she becomes usher to her husband if she's a mizana. But here the question was, she was a penuya. She was not married, a single girl, but she had relations with somebody. If he's a puzzle man, she becomes puzzle. She's not allowed to marry a Kohen. If it was a kosher man, even though they shouldn't have had relations unmarried, but it doesn't make her puzzle. So that's the issue over here. So machlokus, if we rely on her, she's trusted and she's allowed to marry a Kohen. Even though she had relations, he might have had relations with somebody, but we're not kosher that he was a puzzle man, and therefore she's still kosher lakuna. We don't live off her words. That we cannot trust her, and we assume that she was had relations with somebody who's puzzle, for instance, a nas and a mamzer, anybody that will puzzle her, until she proves herself. Means that she's guilty, not guilty, but she's held b'cheskas pasula until she proves that she's kosher, that the man that she had relations with was a kosher man. That's the first case, and the Mishnah is going to say the same case over again, more or less. But here it's going to say that we know for sure that she had relations because we find that she's pregnant. I said Mubaris, a single girl becomes pregnant, so we know that she had relations with somebody. We just don't know who. They ask her, what's the fetus? Means what's the status of the fetus? Who did you have relations with? Means the chash that maybe it was a puzzle person, and then she's going to be puzzle, and the Uber is going to be puzzle. And she says, she says who it was, who the man was, and that he's a kosher man, even though she shouldn't have had relations out of marriage without being married, but she's kosher and the Uber is kosher. So again, the same question: do you trust her or not? Rabbi say that she could be trusted and she's kosher, and we'll talk about the Gemara. The Gemara will talk about if the vlad is also kosher. We don't live off her words. Until she proves that we don't trust her. So two cases, very similar. The first case was that we only saw her speaking. The word speaking should be in quotations. It doesn't mean actually speaking. It means more than that. It's just a nice way of saying something. I think Gemara is going to say what that means. And the second case is that we know for sure that she had relations because she became pregnant. And the same issue. To who did she become pregnant? Is he a kosher man or a apostle man? And in both these cases, Rabbi Gamliel was Mekel, Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Eliezer, and Rabbi Yeshua was Machmer in both cases. It says, no, we don't know. It's a suffix. We leave it as a suffix. And the Chash Pasal. So first the Gemara goes into the first case of Medaberes. What does the word Medaberes means? Literally means she was speaking. Obviously, it's not the case. To speak to somebody doesn't make anybody puzzle. The issue is that she had relations. So Ziri Yomar Nistera. Ravasi Yomar Nivala. Ziri says that it's another way of saying she has seclusion. We don't even know for sure that she had relations. And Ravasi says that it means that she had relations. We know for sure that she had relations. Even in the first case, she wasn't pregnant, but we know that the Eidim come and say she had relations with this man. They don't know who the man is, but they know that she had relations. So that first thing goes to explain the terminology. You can understand that it's a nice term of saying seclusion, that she was speaking. It doesn't mean speaking in public, it means speaking in seclusion, but that's the way the Mishnah says in a nice way that she had seclusion, that she was speaking. Why does it call having relations, calling speaking? The answer is it's a clean way of speaking. That's the pasuk in Mishlei where it's talking about Zona, that she was Mazana. Over there it says literally the words mean that she eats and wipes her mouth and says, I didn't do any evil. So it talks about having relations as nus. It calls it as eating. So here it doesn't say eating. Here it says that she was speaking. But the same thing. The point is that the pasuk uses a clean term to understand that it's talking about znus. And so too, the Mishnah, when it says that she was Mazana, it says Shmida Beres. So again, we have machlokes between Ziri and Rav Asi. What the case of the Mishnah was it that they mamish know that she was Mazana, or they don't know even that, they just know she was in seclusion. The whole question is revolving around Rabbi Yeshua. It means Rabbi Yeshua, the Rabbi Gamliel says kosher. We'll see in a second. The second case of the Mishnah says Muberes. Over there, definitely she had relations. She's pregnant. And over there, Rabbi Gamliel says kosher. So there's no question in Rabbi Gamliel that Rabbi Gamliel is going to say kosher, even if it's sure she had relations. That's not a question. If she says it was a kosher man, so we'll trust her. But the question is Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua is the one who's machmer and says that you don't trust her. And we say that maybe she was Mazana with a puzzle man. This is a question: how much is Rabbi Yeshua machmer? Is he machmer only if she was definitely Mazana? According to Rabbi, you only see that he's machmer if she definitely was Mazana. Then we'll choshish that it was a puzzle man. But if she does have seclusion and we don't know, you wouldn't see in the Mishnah that Rabbi Yeshua is so machmer. But according to Ziri, if we'll be able to prove that the Mishnah means that stira alone, just having seclusion alone, that's the word medaberes. So Rabbi Yeshua says, and that also we're going to be choshish that she had relations and he's puzzle, and she'll be also to marry a kohen. So Ziri is being machmer over here. Ziri is saying that according to Rabbi Yeshua, she's going to become usher even if we don't know for sure she had relations. Just the fact that she has seclusion, we're going to be choshish for the worst. She had relations with a puzzle man. So that's going to be the discussion now, how to learn the Mishnah. Last now, yes?
He wasn't Rav Asi?
Yes, maybe I said wrong.
Ziri.
Ziri is the one who's going to be machmer. Maybe if I said wrong, I said wrong. But
No,
Ziri,
you said Ziri, but I thought Ziri is going like Rabbi.
Ziri is saying everyone's coming to say pshat the
Ziri
word
saying that
medaberes.
Medaberes means that they were
Only
secluded.
seclusion, right? And Rav Ashi says that the word medaberes means she was nivola. We know that she was nivola. We saw that she had relations.
Okay.
I'm not saying that it comes out. The machlokes has ramifications according to
The
Rabbi Yeshua.
ramifications for Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Ziri is being machmir.
And saying that Rabbi Yeshua is going to say that she's usher, even if we
Even when-
don't know that she was nivola, just we know that she was secluded. We're going to say that maybe she had relations and the man is puzzle, and she's going to become puzzle to marry a kohen. According to
Which is
Rabbi,
even more machmir than a sota, for example.
Sota is talking about she's a married woman, altogether different. Sota is a married woman, and if she has a
We
kino, she
have
has warning.
chashash. In terms of the chashash,
Yeah, but
you
over,
have to do something.
there by Sota, there's a kino. He warned her first. Just the Steve alone is not going to answer. But here is a pnuya, an unmarried woman. We don't know who she had relations with, and it's relevant to her marrying a kohen now.
So the seclusion is enough for him, so it's being very machmir.
Right, and that she has the relations, and the man might have been puzzled.
Rav Asi is more machmir because he said she definitely had you.
It's not a machmir. That's just the case. That's only discussing what the case is. If the case that the Mishnah is talking about was that she had definite relations, then Rabbi Yeshua is that she becomes asa. But if in a case where she only would have had seclusion, Rav Asi would say that we don't see Rabbi Yeshua as machmir. And so Ziri says no, that the Mishnah is talking about even only has seclusion, and still Rabbi Yeshua says that she's asa. So Ziri is the machmir. The Mishnah, the Gemara continues in the last narrow line. We have two cases in the Mishnah, as is highlighted. There's a case of Medaberes and a case of Muberes. So according to Ziri, we understand why there are two cases. The Chiddush of Medaberes is even if we don't know for sure that she had relations, Rabbi Yeshua still says Asa. The second case, Muberes, says even according to Ram Gamliel that she definitely did have relations, she's still mutter. So it's a very extreme focus. So the Gemara said, Mishnah says two cases to show the extremity that Rabbi Yeshua is machmir even if she only has seclusion, and Ram Gamliel is mekel machshir even if she definitely had relations. That's why we understand why he says two cases. But according to Rav Asi, both of them are definite relations. But the Beres means that they saw having relations, and Muberes means we see her pregnant, but also that's another way of saying we know for sure that they had relations. So why does it have to say two cases of the same idea? That's why he says two cases with Beres and Muberes. The first case about speaking, which means only seclusion, and the second case of Muberes, which means she's pregnant. Both are the same thing. Both means that she definitely had relations, either because we saw them having relations or because she's pregnant. What's the difference? The Gemara says, the first case in the Mishnah is talking about her. It's only relevant to her. She's not pregnant. We saw having relations. That should become usher to a Kohen because it was that she had relations with a puzzle man. But doesn't talk about any kind of child. But in the second case where it talks about that she's pregnant, that's hinting that it has relevance also to the child. And Rabbi Gamliel, who's going to say that it's kosher, is coming to say that the child is also kosher. We're going to see later on the reason why that's a chiddush is because the child doesn't have a cheskes kashrus. Usually there's a klal, you go with chazaka, which means you leave it on status quo. The girl, she was born a kosher girl. Not a question was did she become puzzle by having relations with a puzzle man? But she still has a chazaka to fall onto that if we don't know, is it out to say leave it status quo till now she was kosher. She continues with her status, but the child that now is being conceived that doesn't have a cheskes kashrus. So it's more chiddush to say that the child also will be kosher. It means it's not to say that the mother it'll be kosher. The mother has a question if she had a relation with a puzzle man or not. There's possibility to say that the mother's going to be kosher from now on. We're not going to say that she cannot marry a Kohen because she has a cheskes kashrus.
From the first case. Case number 3. Case number 3. Is it Reverend Gavin?
I'm sorry?
We have 2 cases, and now we're saying that they both mean she's pregnant.
No. The first case doesn't say pregnant. The first case says she had relations.
That she had relations.
And the second case says she's pregnant. The second case, he's saying he's going to tell you a chiddush that Rabbi Gamliel is going to say even that the daughter is also
right,
kosher.
He's concentrating on Rabbi Gamliel.
The chiddush is Rabbi Gamliel, right? Did I miss something?
No.
It's good. Okay. So here the Gemara goes. That's the Gemara's answer. First white line. One case is to say that the woman herself is kosher. One case is to say that the daughter, the fetus, is also going to be kosher. That Rabbi Gamliel will say that not only do I say that the woman will allow to be married a Kohen, but even the daughter that's born also will say it's kosher, even though she doesn't have a chazaka. And the Gemara says that's not so simple. We're going to see on Amud Beis, we'll see soon that that's a machlokus. We're going to see it's not so simple. There is a mandama that says like that. We're going to see, I think, Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Loza, that Rabbi Yochanan, I forgot the names exactly. I think Rabbi Yochanan says kosher. So according to him, it's true. You can say such a pshat. The reason why the Mishnah says this case of Muberis is to say that even the child is also kosher. But there is somebody, I think, Rabbi Loza, that's going to say
which
that
we didn't get
to yet. We'll see it on Amud Beis. That's going to say that even according to Rabbi Gamliel, he only is mashal the woman herself, but not the baby.
And this is going to be a kasha on Ravasi.
Right. That the only way Ravasi, the Gemara Kasha and Ravasi, why does it say 2 cases? And only, right, we answered Ravasi by saying that he'll say that the second case of the Mishnah is coming to say that the child is also going to be assumed kosher, but that's not so simple because somebody says he can't assume that even Rabbi Gamliel doesn't say the child is kosher. Even though it talks about she's pregnant, and we say what's the status of we ask her who's this fetus. We mean to just say who's the man who created this fetus, but we're not talking about the fetus because the fetus is going to be puzzle. When the child is born, we're going to say maybe it's a suffix. Even according to Rabbi Gamliel, it's going to be a suffix puzzle. So that's what somebody holds. Rabbi Lazar on the Amud Beis. So you can't explain Ravasi by saying that the chiddush of the second Mishnah of Muberis is to say that the child is kosher because it could be he himself holds that the child is not kosher. That's the Gemara's kasha. And the Gemara says you're right. Ravasi Sava Kamandam that there's no way to get out of it. If Ravasi wants to say his pshat that the case of Medaberis means that she was seen having relations, he's going to have to say that Muberis is coming to say that the child is also going to be considered kosher according to Rabbi Gamliel, and that's why the Mishnah says 2 cases. So just to sum up what we have so far, there's a machlokis between Rav Ziri and Ravasi. If Rav Yeshua, who says that misafik, if you don't know who the boil was, will choshish that it's a puzzle, even if it only was seclusion. Even if in the Beres only means seclusion, she was secluded, we're going to be choshish that she had relations with a puzzle man. We don't know who the man is, we don't know if she had relations, but we're going to be choshish for everything. Maybe she had relations with a man who's puzzle, and she's going to become puzzle tekuna. According to Ravasi, you don't see that. Maybe Rabbi Yeshua is only machmir if she had relations. We know for sure she had relations. Question only is one question. Was he kosher or puzzle? They'll say maybe he's puzzle. But if we don't know if he had relations, we're not going to go so far to Asa.
I'm sorry, just I'm a little confused. Is she in Arusa?
She's a Pnuya. She's an unmarried. She's a single
So
girl.
we just worried about her lineage, whether it's going to be considered a kosher lineage.
Not a lineage,
Absolutely.
her
What can she
status.
have?
That she's allowed to marry a
So she
Kohen.
had-
She's allowed to marry a
married out
Kohen.
of-
If she had relations with a man who's puzzle, a mamzer or a nusan, she becomes puzzle to a Kohen. Or a goy, whatever it might be, she becomes puzzle to a Kohen. Okay, so that was the machlokas so far, and we're looking for proofs.
And she's supposed to look like that the child was supposed
Then the kid will be puzzle. Right. If you put two and two together here, Ziri learns that the case is they only have seclusion. And what does Rabbi Shua say? That she's not trusted, and Yechoshish that she's a to a Kohen, that maybe she had relations with a puzzle man, two speakers. We don't know if she had relations, and we don't know who the guy is. But we're going to be Choshish everything. Maybe she had relations with a puzzle man. So if Papa asked him, that comes out that it's against Rav. Omer Rav, Malkan ala yichud, vein osman ala yichud. This was a statement that Rav said. Maybe highlighted over here. Malkan ala yichud, vein osman ala yichud. If a man and woman have seclusion together, we give them lashes. So Rashi says it's not the Raisa, there's always a Deraisa, but there's this a Rabbanan, and we give Malchus, a boy and girl, a man and a woman who had, even though she's not a married woman, they had seclusion, which is Issa Rabbanan to have seclusion, maybe it's just a Deraisa. So we give Malchus as a punishment, even though they didn't necessarily have relations, but they went into
What is this
seclusion.
where it's not trusted. We're not trusted to believe her.
Where
That's why
do
we
you see?
give her lashes.
I'm sorry, I didn't see the
Lo
words.
mehemna. They're the beginning of that line.
No, it doesn't talk about lashes. It says that, and Rishua says that we don't trust her, and she's puzzled. The next words, we didn't finish it.
Mhm.
What is the
Yeah.
locus?
Malchus means lashes. Usually lashes is a Torah level, but the Rashi says here it doesn't mean that. It means on a rabbinic level that we give lashes to somebody who transgressed the prohibition of having seclusion with a woman.
Maybe you read this too fast. Is after Mehemna is a period and Hamar is a kasha?
Yes. Laziri, the Amar Mami, the Beres Nisra. Bami Rabbi Shalom Mehemna, Kama, it's against Hamar Rav differently. Means is Rav not going to be against Rabbi Yeshua? According to Ziri, the way we figure out the Mishnah, it says that the Beres means she was in seclusion, and Rabbi Yeshua says in the Mishnah she's not believed, which means that she becomes Asa Ter Kohen. The question is, Hamar Rav, Malkan ala Yichud, Ve'nosman ala Yichud. That if there was Yichud, if a man and woman has seclusion, we give Malchus to them. But Ein Osman ala Yichud, we're not going to say that if they had seclusion, they probably had relations, and we're going to say that she can't marry a Kohen. Or that's what the more thinks it means, at least at this point. So it's against, Rav says different. Lema the Lok Rabbi Yeshua. That statement of Rav doesn't fit the Rabbi Yeshua's pshat, Ziri's pshat in Rabbi Yeshua. Ziri says the case of the Mishnah is she only has seclusion, and Rabbi Yeshua says she's not trusted, which means she's puzzled to a Kohen. That means also that means that we do prohibit the woman because maybe she had relations. Rav said that you don't prohibit the woman because of the possibility maybe she had relations. You give Malchus because they did Aveira of having seclusion, but you're not going to say that she's Asa. And the Gemara thinks it means she's not even Asa to a Kohen. The Gemara says, no, that's not what we're talking about. I feel the bottom line, I feel the time Rabbi Yeshua, Rav could be reconciled with this pshat of Raziri according to Rabbi Yeshua. Ma'ala Asa b'yochsin. That's just a better quality, a better quality that we gave to lineage. Means as far as the Kohen, we don't want a Kohen to marry as a questionable lineage. So therefore we said that she's possible to a Kohen. I mean, the case over there, the Gemara is saying, Ein Osan Alichud means that a married woman who went into seclusion with a man, and now the question is if they had relations, she becomes Asa to her husband. That's far we're not going to go. We're not going to say that a woman becomes Asa to her husband because that's seclusion. That's what Levi Yaakov mentioned before. Or somebody, I forgot, a sota. Someone said about a sota. I forgot who mentioned it.
Yeah.
That there's a sota. That means when she was warned, the husband had a suspicion and warned her not to be anymore with a man. And then she did anyway, and she has seclusion. We have even that she was warned and even that she had seclusion. Then we're going to say she's also to her husband until she drinks the Mayim Amor, which is going to prove her innocence if she's innocent. But just Yichud alone, just she has seclusion without being warned, then we're not going to say the woman is also to her husband.
Seclusion. How do we know?
Right.
How do we know she was secluded?
Aiden come and say she had seclusion, but they didn't see if she was Mazana.
And she wasn't warned.
What? But she wasn't warned. She wasn't warned. So
They
she's not.
saw her go and be in seclusion.
Right. So ain't also not a Yichud. What?
I'm sorry, Ma'aleh
Asu b'yochsin. They made a special elevation by lineage, which Rashi says means that we're not going to let a Kohen marry. She can't marry a Kohen anymore. But that's not talking about a married woman who has seclusion with a man. Einos when Ali Yichud is talking about a married woman that has seclusion with another man, which if she was Mizan, if she had relations with that man, she's going to be also to her husband. We're not going to say that. We're not going to say that. We're not going to be so machmir to say that she might have had relations and therefore she's also to her husband. That's like a big jump. But the fact of a Kohen, that a woman had here, she's not a married woman. She had relations, a Pnuya, unmarried woman had relations with somebody. We don't know who it is. I'm sorry. She had seclusion with somebody. And the question is, if she had relations, then we are going to be machmir and say that she might have had relations and she might be puzzled and therefore she's not allowed to marry a Kohen.
Oh, I see.
That's a
So
model. It's called a model.
So the lashes would only come if the aiding is proof.
They didn't prove that she had seclusion.
Right.
Even though she didn't have relations, but just the fact that she had went to seclusion, so then it
She's
says
still
in
gonna
Malchus.
get lashed.
There is a Taisus brings down an issue that another Gemara says that we don't give Malchus to a married woman because then people are going to start talking. If she got lashes, it means we know that she had relations, and that not. But a Pnuya, an unmarried woman, a single woman who had seclusion with a man, we do give Malchus. That's Avera that even if no, the warning is about a married woman who was warned and she had seclusion anyway, and she becomes usher to her husband until she drinks the water that'll test her out. So far we're still holding by the Machlokes Ziri and Rav Asi Hadalam Shat in our mission when it says Medaberes. What does it mean? So holding on the bottom line, and we're going to try to find a brisa to support one of the two sides. Again, what does the word Medaberes mean? It means speaking, but it doesn't mean that literally. It's saying either that she had seclusion or that she actually had relations. Then we're going to focus on Rabbi Yeshua. She's also usher to a Kohen. So Marsa Kasha from a brisa Meisvei. Ra'uha shenichnesa im echad lis. What is that? The Gemara answers, "Afilu tein Rabbi Yeshua, ma'ala asu b'yosin." You could say that God. Okay, the Gemara starts bottom line. Meisvei kasha from a brisa. The brisa seems to say openly right away. You see the bottom of the word, last word, l'seisa. Ra'uha shenichnesa im echad l'seisa. They saw that Aiden witnesses saw that a woman went in seclusion with somebody. You can stop right there. I would have stopped right here. It says right away, this can be in Machlokes Bishur Ram Gamliel. It says that seclusion alone is enough. So that's going to be the main point of the raya, that it says seclusion. It doesn't say they saw that she was nivola, that she had relations. That said there was seclusion. And the Bishur is going to say that it's asa. So just to keep a focus on that last word. Oh, lechorva, or they went into Aruns. Aruns is a place where there's seclusion. Ruins means nobody's there. It's another way of saying seclusion. Like the Gemara says in Brachas, right in the beginning, a person shouldn't go into a chorba because chashad, they might suspect him that he's having relations with a woman. So anyway, a chorba is another example of a makam seisa. Then they asked, they saw her coming out. Who's that man? Kohen who Abahu is a kosher man. He's kosher. He's a Kohen. Happens to even be my cousin. Like everything's fine. Not that she should have had relations in it, but if she did, doesn't make her puzzle. He's a kosher man. We're in the same family. So that's the same as our mission. Just a little bit more explicit about the case, that it says it was a seisa or a chorva. It was a place of seclusion. It doesn't sound like they had relations for sure. Just we just saw the seclusion. Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Lez, Omrim Nemenes, Rabbi Shlomo.
Where does it answer a Kohen who ben Achi Avihu?
He's a Kohen,
Right.
and he's my cousin.
Yes, he's a good.
He's a coach.
He's good.
What does good mean? Good mean that even if he had relations, I don't become puzzled because of it. It doesn't mean that that's tzaddikim. They had relations and she's not married. But even if had relations, she's giving in. She's giving in that she had relations. But she's saying I don't become puzzled to a Kohen because he's a kosher man. He's even in the same family. Everything's fine. Everything's fine as my status doesn't change. Rabbi Gamliel says that she's believed. Rabbi Yeshua says she's not believed. Same as our Mishnah.
She could have said we didn't have relations, or she can't say that.
It doesn't, according to Rabbi Gamliel, it doesn't. Rabbi Yeshua doesn't help her. She says that. I mean, Rabbi Yeshua says she's not trusted. Rabbi says she is trusted. Either way, it doesn't seem to make a difference. Rabbi Yeshua says, we don't live off of her mouth. We don't have to trust her. She's assumed that she had relations with somebody who's puzzled and she cannot marry a Kohen until she proves it. If she proves that the man was kosher, then fine. If not, then we're not going to. So it's the same case as our Mishnah, but instead of saying with the beres, here it says, isn't that beferish that it says even seclusion alone? Not because nivala, even seclusion alone, Rabbi Yeshua says puzzle. Bishlam, that's the end of the brisa. So Bishlam al-Aziri, according to Aziri is good. It says openly. Seiser means seclusion. Chorva, the more understands also that the chorva, I just said chorva is a place of seclusion, but the more takes it a little bit further. The fact that it says two cases, why does it say two cases? It must be to tell you two extreme cases. L'seisa means a place of seclusion. L'chorba means that we could assume for sure that they had relations because that's what it's more designated for. Not designated, but that's what it's more used for. How can people go to a chorba? They don't go stam to find a cup of coffee. That's because they want to have seclusion. They want to have relations. So that's another way of saying that they had relations. It's come out for sure that they had relations when we saw them going into a chorba. So according to Ziri is good, and it says extreme case that Rabbi Shua will say it's usher even if they only had seclusion. Rabbi Gamliel will say that she's kosher even if they've sure had relations. That goes good according to Ziri. But according to Ravasi, what he says it says fair shofel. Let's say so. Elo Ravasi dama nivela tati lamali, which is even a little bit stronger. That doesn't it say beferish seisa? The Gemara says why does it say two cases? They both of them mean relations. So why does it say two cases? The Gemara says the first Gemara tries to get out of it. Katani. Let's say the chorba. It does mean chorba. It does means they went into the seclusion of a ruins, which is another way of saying for sure we know that they had relations. And that's the case where Rabbi Shua says that it's asa. But if only would have been a regular seclusion, Rabbi Shua would not necessarily have said that she's asa.
It's a different, the regular seclusion in a room.
A ruins is more definite that they went for having relations. They didn't go down. Malcolm said they wanted to talk, they wanted to have privacy, but not that there's a chance to have relations, but not as much
More
chance.
regular on a private, like in a home sort of situation.
If it would have been anything besides the chorba is a ruin that people don't go to ruins. There are other reasons not to go to a chorba.
What
It's
about the fact
dangerous.
that people don't usually have relationships outside? Isn't that?
You're not talking about great tzaddikim over here.
I'm talking about so then that's.
So they might have gone to the chorba in order to have relations. They're trying to find a private place. But anyway, the Gemara doesn't accept this answer. The Gemara tried to say let's say the chorba that only means one's case, but the Gemara says no, it doesn't say that. It says the word "o." You can't ignore the word "o." "O" means or. Two cases. So we didn't answer the kasha yet. According to Avasi, that says that the case is only talking about that they were known to have relations. It doesn't seem to say that. It says let's say all the chorba. Two cases must mean that one was just seclusion, the other one is that they had relations. The Gemara says. Chada l'chorva de masa, v'chada l'chorva de dabra. Both of them are chorvos, and chorvos means that it's very, very short that they had relations. They didn't see the actual relations, but they saw that they went into a chorva, which already means to us that they had relations, or else they wouldn't have gone into the chorva. And the reason why it says two cases is because there are two kinds of chorvos. There are two kinds of ruins. One is a ruin inside the city, one is a ruin in the field. It means that there's much more possibility. We'll see what the problem was. Both of the ruins means that people go there almost 100% in order to have relations. It's not going there for any other reason. But there's still a difference between being in the city or being in the field. The word masa means the city, and the word dabra means the field. Well, you need both cases. The yashmin al chorba the masa that who is hanging around over there means what are people that are. If it's in this, we're assuming it's only people from the city, and the most of this is a kosher people, not Nesinim, they're not Mamzerim, they're not Goyim. The case is Jewish city, and even if he did go to have relations, he was a kosher man and doesn't make a puzzle. She's an unmarried woman. But Abel Chorba the Dabra, the robe Psulin Atzla, Ema Mo de Rabbi Yeshua. A Chorba the Dabra means that it's a ruins in the field, and over there you don't say that it comes, the people who come there from the immediate vicinity. They come from any place, and most of the world are goyim. So there's more chance that it's a goy. So you might think that Ibrahim Gamliel would say that she's puzzled because there's more chance, a robe. There's a robe that say the majority are coming in the field, right? They're going to be from goyim. It's not limited to the proximity of the city. It could be from any place. Many places, more chance that it's a goy than it's a Jew. So then she will be puzzled. The man.
You seen the Jews didn't live in the fields? Or they didn't...
No, when you go out to the field, it means you're not. It's not. No one lived in the field. They're going to a place where nobody lives over there. So then, where's the man from? Any place, the whole world. But there's no place to say that he's from a certain place. If it's in the city, so we assume it's a man from the city. If it's out in the field, then we don't know where it came from. It came from. So Kabir, you might have thought that Gamliel would have said over there that there's rope sulim, that probably big chance that it's a guy. So then he would also say that she's puzzled. The Chiddush is even that. Well, that's why he said two cases. Does he see that inside? The switch, we have to have both cases, the Ashmin and Chorba the Masa. If it only say the case of the Chorba in the city, then Rab Gamliel's Mashib, Hakam Mashib Gamliel, Mishum the Rob Shemisla, because most people that would be with her would be kosher people because they're in the city. It's a kosher city. But if it would be a ruins that's out in the field, the Rob Sulinatzla, then the rove that would judging over here is going to be people that are puzzled. Rashi says most of them are goyim. You might think that Gamliel would agree to be sure that we have to say the woman is puzzled because she probably had relations, or a good chance she had relations with a puzzled man. So it says no, even that Gamliel also says it's kosher. V'yashmin and Bahi come Rabbi Yeshua. tzricha. The opposite. If only say the case of the chorba in the field, you say that's Rabbi Shua says it's puzzle because people are going over there.
There
come
are
to the-
two Baha'is, right?
What?
There are two Baha'is.
V'yashmin on Bahi, comma, Bahi come Rabbi Yeshua. If I only would say that case, which is that case, the case of the field, then I would say Dafka in that case, does Rabbi Yeshua say puzzle? Because most people are puzzle. Aval Baha, but this case, there's that case and this case. Bahi is that case and Ha is this case. But this case means the case of the ruins in the city. You might say that he's also most that most people are kosher, and we can assume the woman had a relations with a kosher man. That's why it said it. What happened? Just to zoom out, what happened? What happened was that the Gemara Brisa that said openly the word Seser or Chorba, and it sounds like Ziri, that the case that Rabbi Shua is talking about is even a Seser case, even a seclusion case, without knowing for sure that she had relations. And he gets out of it by saying that both of them are Chorvas, and a Chorva is another way of saying that it's definite relations. It's Kamata saying that they saw that had relations, but the reason why it says two cases is to say one in the field and one in the city. There's more problem if it was in the field, and still Rabbi Gamliel is machshir, and there's less problem in the city, and still Rabbi Yeshua says that it's puzzle. But if it will only be seclusion, still you don't see that Rabbi Yeshua would have asked. Rabasi is still holding to his position that Rabbi Yeshua would not have asked her if there only was seclusion, and there wasn't testimony on seclusion, and we don't have witnesses that they actually had relations. So we tried to knock off Rabasi, it didn't work. Now the Gemara continues with another brisa. The question is if there would be no Gemara. The subject we're talking about is there'd be no witnesses that they actually had relations, only witnesses that they went into seclusion. Will Rabbi Yeshua be so machbet to say might have had relations with a puzzle man and she's puzzle tekuna? Like it's a double jump that we don't even know that for sure that had relations. They only went seclusion, and even if they did have relations, who is it? Maybe it's a kosher man. Maybe it's not a puzzle man. So Ziri says even that case Rabbi Yeshua is also going to say that the choshish that she had relations with a puzzle man, and Rav Asi didn't go so far. According to his reading of the Mishnah, you don't see that. That's what we're trying to figure out. We tried to prove it, we didn't prove it yet, so we're still on the search for our next brisa. And
In that sense, we the Zeri is more machmir, that he also.
that according to Yeshua, she'd be also even if it only was seclusion.
That's enough.
That's what we're talking about. Yeah. The Gemara found another brisa. Meisvei. Zu Eidush Ishuk Shevala. So this is Tosefta says in the side Tosefta, in the beginning of Tosefta, they tell us that it's talking about our case about a woman who was pregnant. This case is the pregnant case. Unmarried woman, she becomes pregnant, and we want to know where's this pregnancy from. And the question is if the man who had relations with her, was he kosher or apostle? And that'll talk about the status of the woman.
She was Penunia, or
Yeah.
she was not married,
She was not married.
and she's pregnant.
And the question is, who's the man that was Boel? If he's
Someone
a-
that she's not forbidden to have relations with.
Right. So it said before that Gamliel's opinion that she's kosher. So she's trusted about herself to say that she's kosher. It calls it an edus over. It's not mamsha testimony because it's about herself. But it means that she's trusted for herself to say that she had relations with a kosher man, and even though she's pregnant, but it was a kosher man, and therefore she's kosher to marry a Kohen, and the child is going to be kosher maybe. Rabbi Yeshua ain't a menace. The same thing we've been talking about the case of the second case of the Mishnah, that she was found pregnant, and Rabbi Yeshua says she's not trusted to who she had relations with, and therefore she's puzzling. Other than Rabbi Yeshua is having a debate with his opponent, Rabbi Gamliel. Don't you agree that a woman who was captured by Goyim, when the captivity, and then we're that the captors had relations with her, and there are Edom that say that she was captured. It means if she comes herself and says, you don't know, but I was captured by a Goyim, but you should know that no one touched me. So then she's believed because she's the one who told us all the information. She could have been quiet. But here we have testimony that she was captured. And the only question is, did they rape her? Torani, and she says that no one touched me. That Torah doesn't mean Torah. It means that was she defiled or not. And she says I was not. Ain't it a menace? She's not believed. And she's now the question would be Kohen if she's married to a Kohen or she wants to marry a Kohen. But Shvuya is that she was raped, and therefore she's usher to Kohen. Don't you agree? Rabbi Yeshua asked his opponents, don't you agree that a woman that was captured, that she's not believed on her own to say that she was not defiled? Amula avol? Yes. The word avol, even though we used to the word avol means but it means in truth. It means yes, I agree. I agree that a shvuya, a captured woman, is not believed to say that she was not defiled. So Rabbi Yeshua is saying that's the same case over here. Over there you don't believe her, you shouldn't believe her here either. Our case is a woman who's found to be pregnant, a single girl that's pregnant, so you shouldn't trust her. What's the difference? What's the difference between a captured woman that you don't trust and this single woman who says that, who we see is pregnant,
Well,
that you do trust her?
captured is usually goyim. The capture is generally goyim, and then.
But you don't know if she had,
and
you don't know if she had relations. And with Choshes, she had relations, even though she said she didn't have relations. They didn't know, no one touched her.
I thought isn't she somewhere?
One second. It doesn't make a difference if it's honest, as far as the Kohen.
As far as the Cohen doesn't make a difference. So when she says to her, she means no.
She, no one touched me. And what does it say? So everybody agrees. You agree to that. You agree that a captured woman does not believe to say that no one touched me. And we say she cannot marry a Kohen. And how come over here, by this case over here, that the single woman is pregnant and you don't know who it was? How come over there you do believe her? So they answered, L'zu yesh edim, but l'zu ein lo edim. Literally, the answer is the case of the captured woman over there are edim that she was captured. But over here, there's no edim that she had relations.
She's pregnant.
Of course. Here also the testimony because she's pregnant. That's the most expression of saying pregnant. And the pregnancy means to say that it's like someone puts a foot in their mouth. It's called that her stomach is between her teeth. She's saying that she didn't have relations. Stomach is testifying against her. So there is testimony. Now, the next couple words are not going to make sense, and the Gemara is going to have to figure it out. So they told her there's a difference between a captured woman and this single woman who's pregnant, because most goyim are breached in arayis, means that most goyim will rape a woman. If they captured a woman, then the rove says that they did have relations with her. She says they didn't have relations. She's captured by goyim. Wins all that puzzle over there, and she's captured by the, and she says they didn't touch. That's very hard to believe because the goyim. And then he said back to them, there's no guardian for arayis, which we don't know, that we lost the discussion. It doesn't seem to flow. What is the give and take over here? We're trying to figure out, is the case of the captured woman similar to the single woman who's pregnant? And Rabbi Shua is trying to say that it's the same, and we don't get the discussion. We don't know what the words mean. Like we know translation, but we don't see we lost the discussion over here, and the Gemara is going to have to figure it out. And that's going to be coming up in 2 lines. The Gemara is going to say my kamar, but till we finish the brayso, let's put in parentheses. The Gemara is going to come back to the parentheses soon. That's only as far as a woman testifying about herself. Well, but as far as testifying about her child, if the child's not, everybody holds that shtuki means another way of saying hush up about the child. We don't know who it is, and it's like a suffix mamzer. We're not sure if it's a mamzer or not, but we'll leave out those words because it's not relevant at this point. But anyway, what the Gemara trying to figure out, discussion between Rabbi Shua and Ram Gamliel about the kashrus of this woman, a single woman who's pregnant. So if she's kosher or not, and Rabbi Shua is attacking that it's by captured woman. We say that she's a puzzle, and what's the difference? And we lost the discussion over there. We weren't able to follow the give and take. And that's what the Gemara asks over here, my kamalahu, my kamadule. What was the give and take? What did he tell to them? What did Rabbi Shua tell to the opponents? And what did they answer back? So in order to answer the brayso, we have to stick in something, which the Gemara does a lot of times because it doesn't make sense the way it reads. We have to amend it. We have to edit it to figure out. Some words got lost in the Masorah. So I was going to figure out that it's talking about something about stira, just having seclusion, which is what we're looking for. We're looking for if Rabbi Gamaliel and Rabbi Shua are talking about a case of medaberes, just seclusion alone, or they're talking about only nivala. So based on the discussions that we don't know how to make sense out of this discussion, we're going to figure out that it's talking about stira, and we're going to bring a proof to Zeiri that Rabbi Shua is machmir even with seclusion alone. That's the direction we're going. So the Gemara says, what are the words? What's the give and take? This is what they said to him. Rabbi Shua said that it's the same as a. Is there a chair? He answered us. You answered us about the muberes. Means Rabbi Shua said that he wanted the case of the shvuya. He wanted to say that the woman who's pregnant, the single woman who's pregnant, that you don't know who who's the man that she had that impregnated her. So it said it's the same as a shvuya, a captured woman. You see over there that you say that she's usher to Kohen because we assume that she was raped, and you don't trust her that she says that she was not. And he's saying if that's usher, also this single pregnant woman, also you should be choshesh that she's usher to Kohen.
It's typically machmir.
Yeah, Yeshua's machmir. The whole daf for Yeshua's machmir, and he brought a raya from shvuya, and they said, and he said because this is called. Like there's testimony, the fact that she's pregnant, that's the biggest testimony that she had relations. But now the Gemara sticks in, this is what we're looking for, that they said that's only good as far as if she became pregnant. But what if not? What if she only has seclusion alone? Which is Mamish is opening that we found the answer, that the issue that we're looking for. Is Rabbi Yeshua machmir even by seclusion alone? That was the whole discussion. That's everything is revolving around that today. Rabbi Yeshua that said Medaberes, that she was found Medaberes with somebody, does that mean that she was found to have relations? Or even if she only was found to have seclusion? And here, because of the give and take, we have to stick in that they were asking Rabbi Yeshua to say that she has testimony against her, that she had relations, that's only when she's pregnant. Then there's no question that she had relations. But Matishivenu ala Medaberes, you are machmer, you are Rabbi Yeshua machmer, even if she don't only has seclusion alone. This is going to be the proof. I just highlighted it to show that this is the proof against Rav Asi. This shows that Ziri is right, that Rabbi Yeshua is machmir even if she's just medaberes, because that was the question against him. The Rabbanan asking him, how come you're machmir by seclusion alone? If she'd be pregnant, that's like testimony that she had relations. The question only is the kosher apostle. Over there, you're right. But if she only was in seclusion, so we don't know for sure that she had relations, how come you machmir over there? He said it's the same thing. They told him, no, it's not the same. Amulo Shani Shvuya, the Rov Goyim puts him by Rayasim. By the Shvuya, what's the question over there? They're surely Goyim. They're surely apostle. Means the captors are Goyim. So if they had relations, she's going to become apostle. The only question is, did they rape her or not? And over there we say the Rov says that they did rape her. That's why we'll agree over there that the Shvuya is apostle to a Kohen. But over here, you don't have that. Here we don't know if she only was in seclusion. You don't know if they had relations. They don't know if they're apostle. That's what he meant to say, that if she had seclusion, also the rove of the people that are going to have seclusion are also going to be out for relations also. That's what he answered them. It still didn't talk about the possibility that maybe there's a rove ksherim, about a goyim over there who captured, they're all goyim. So then if they had relations, if they raped her, so she's going to are going to be a raper. But the Gemara says also, if they went into seclusion, there's no guard against a rise. In a Petropos rise. That means that you can't trust them. If they went into seclusion, then also the rove chances are that they had relations with each other also. And therefore, Bishua says here also, I'm going to be choshesh to had relations, and she became pasal to kuna. Why does the Gemara want this? At this point, in the discussion, the debate between Rabbi Yeshua and the Rabbanan, we have to stick in that there was a case not of the pregnancy, even if she just was medaberes, yichar alone. Katani miyas k'tarti medaberes and muberes. So we proved Rav Asi is wrong. This Brisa shows after we had to fix it up. So we proved that Rav Asi is wrong. Rav Ziri is right. That Rabbi Yeshua is machmir, even if they just were in seclusion. Even if we don't know for sure that they had relations, we're going to be choshesh they had relations, and the man was possible maybe, and therefore she's possible to a Kohen. And the Gemara finished that. We proved Ziri to be right. Rabbi Yeshua is machmir even if they didn't definitely have relations, just seclusion alone. So it comes out extreme achlokis. Ram Gamliel is going to be makel even if for sure they had relations. She's pregnant also, but we don't know who the man is. So he'll be somech. If she says that he's a kosher man, so then she's kosher. And Rabbi Yeshua is going to be machmir at the other extreme. Even if we don't know for sure that she had relations, we're going to be choshes that there were relations, that maybe it was a apostle man, and she's going to be apostle to a Kohen. Comes out extreme. Double. And we're going to pass like Ram Gamliel. Ram Gamliel is makel. We're going to pass like Ram Gamliel, but some more details about that. The Gemara continues. The typically doesn't rope sulin esla, vacha rope shemin esla. There's still a big difference. The Gemara talks about Rabbi the comparison to a shvuya by the captors. Most of the captors are psulin. They're mostly goyim. They're all goyim. They're mostly goyim. But over here, there's a big tzad that is a kosher. Means besides the fact about Rabbi Yeshua said there's a difference about how much chance that had relations. The goyim, the Gemara first thought that the goyim is worse, and Rabbi Yeshua says that the people who have yichud are also, the rove is going to be that they did it for relations. But how about the rove? By the case of the captors, the people who captured her are goyim. But over here, that the woman comes and says that we see she's pregnant, or that she has seclusion, but there's still a big side that the man was kosher. So what's the comparison? It could be that the case of the captors is worse. So the Gemara says that they're not distinguishing. That Rabbi Shua ben Levi said that Rabbi Gamliel is machsher even if they are rob psulim, and Rabbi Shua apostles even if they are rob ksherim. That for some reason they don't put it into the factor. The only question is if they had relations or not. And Rabbi Gamliel, whose machsher says it's kosher, is even if they're rob psulim, even if the majority of if they had relations that would be rob psulim, still you're allowed to assume that they didn't have relations or that it was from the Miyad. There's a whole city of Goyim and there's one Jew over there. Somebody, my Chavrusa gave the example, there's one Chabad house out in no place, and she says it was from that person. Had relations with somebody's a Jew, a kosher man, even though everybody's Goyim, that was the one. So according to Rabbi Gamliel, she's believed. And according to Rabbi Yeshua, it says possible, even if Rob Ksherim, even if the whole city is kosher, and there's one person over there who's a mamzer, well, he's going to say to Choshesh that it was the one who was the puzzle one, or one goy or something like that. So yes, it's getting even more extreme, right? Very extreme. So that's to put it on the Rabbi Yeshua. We have Rabbi Yeshua. Oh, Rabbi Shimon Levi, yes, Rabbi Shimon, yes, he's the one who said it, right? But he's saying in Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua, he's saying the extreme. So now we'll just put it on the table again. Rabbi Gamliel is even. How do we say it? Even if they for sure had relations, even if she for sure had relations. She's Mubarak, and the majority of people over there are puzzle, still say kosher. And if Yeshua is the other extreme, even if they only had seclusion, and most of the people are kosher, he's going to be kosher. So maybe she had relations. We don't know that for sure either, only seclusion. But the kosher had relations with a puzzle, and even though it's against the robe, still going to be puzzle. I'm Rabbi Yochanan, New Gemara, which was mentioned in Amar Aleph. We said we're going to have it today still, so here it is. This is the machlokes we said. Does it affect the child also? We said in the Mishnah says Mubarak, so we said in Machlokes. Here it is. I'm Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Yochanan against Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Yochanan is the green. He's the one who's going to be Meko. Rabbi Elazar is in the red. He's the one who's Machmir. I'm Rabbi Yochanan. The Libra Machshir Ba Machshir Bebita.
So what's the question?
Does it affect the child also? The child's also in question. She's pregnant, and then she has a child. We want to know who's the child that's a child of. Was the father a guy? Is he apostle to come out to a Kohen? I'm Rabbi Yochanan. The Libra Machshir Ba Machshir Bebita. Rabbi Gamliel, who's Machshir. He's machshir a woman. He's also machshir a daughter also. He's the next generation. If she's pregnant, so then the child's also considered kosher because the apostle babita. Rabbi Yeshua says she's possible. That's passion. Surely the child is possible, but even she's possible. Rabbi Elazar Omer the machshir apostle babita. Even Rabbi Gamliel that says that she's kosher, that's only her. But next generation, the fetus, we're going to be choshish that it is possible. And the Gemara says, what's the difference? I'm Rabbi. My time with Rabbi Elazar. Why should Rabbi Elazar distinguish between the woman herself and the child? The answer is the woman, we mentioned this before in passing, that you put her on status quo, that since her original status when she was born, she was kosher. The question was if she became puzzle by having relations with a puzzle man, that would have defiled her. So if you don't know, so you could put her on chazaka. She has a cheskes kashrus that she once upon a time was kosher, so keep her status quo until proven different. But the child doesn't have a status quo because from the inception, we don't know who's the father. We know who the mother is, but we don't know who the father is, and that's 50-50. So there's
I don't understand. If the mother has a kashrus,
yes.
so then wouldn't the child be kosher?
No, because it depends who the father is. It's a kosher mother, but who's the father? The father's a goy. So not. So there's no chazaka.
It's not about her behavior. I don't understand what cheskes kashrus means.
No. Cheskes kashrus means that status quo. What she? I don't think so.
It's like, she's
I don't
a
think.
kosher woman, so it must be a kosher man. We don't say that.
No. Cheskes kashrus means leave a status quo. That she was born kosher. She's kosher until proven not kosher. It means if you don't know, keep her on her status quo. It didn't change. Her status didn't change.
She's kosher. But with the child, when you don't know.
It's from the inception. You don't know what is this child made of. What's the ingredients of this child? Okay. Is it from a kosher man or from a puzzle man? So the chazaka that the mother has is not going to help for the child, because even though the mother was kosher, the status quo cannot continue because there's another ingredient needed over here, the father. So therefore, there's no cheskes kashrus. It doesn't go on to the child. So focus according to Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Gamliel who says
Rabbi
that
now, or-
this is Rabbi Lazar according to Rabbi Gamliel. Even Rabbi Gamliel who says that the mother is kosher, not necessarily is the daughter kosher. Means the case of the Mishnah, second case, that she was Muberis. You find a single woman that's pregnant and you don't know who the father is. So Rabbi Gamliel says she's kosher. But Rabbi Lazar says, even according to him, but the fetus is going to become puzzled because we don't know where they can. There's no chazak over there.
According to Rabbi Lazar.
Right. The Gemara continues with a kasha. Eisvei, Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Yochanan. So now it's going to bring in the brisa that we skipped before. It was a brisa in parentheses before, and I skipped it. I put in parentheses, and I said we'll get to it. Where's the parentheses over here? Back over here. Something about shtuki over here. So that's what the Gemara is going to bring in now, if I remember correctly. Eisvei, Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Lazar is the one who says the daughter does not kosher, and Rabbi Yochanan said the daughter is also kosher. The brisa says only as far as the woman's testimony about herself. But as far as the woman's testimony about her daughter, everyone holds that that the child is a suffix mamzer. That's what the shtuki usually means. That we'll see right away. The Gemara is going to say it might not mean that. Usually, shtuki means the word shotek means to be quiet. The shtok, and usually they say the pshat is that you ask who the father is, so we hush it up. We don't know who the father is, and that means that the kid's a suffix mamzer. You don't know if the kid's a mamzer or not. So here it seems to say that even Rav Gamliel, who does trust her as far as herself, but she's not trusted as far as the fetus is concerned. When the child's born, we don't know. So it doesn't say openly that even the brisa says, even according to Rav Gamliel, that he's not going to be machshir the child. So that's a kasha and you, Rabbi Yochanan. You say that Livia machshir gam bebita. The brisa seems to say not like that. So in order to get out of this kasha, the Gemara is going to say a very big dochak. My love shtuki apostle doesn't mean that the child is a shtuki and memela we're going to say that it's possible because we don't know who the father is. No, it doesn't mean that. Shtuki v'kosher. It's kosher. The child is kosher. And what's a shtuki about him? We don't know yet. Umi shtuki kosher, such a thing as a kosher shtuki. What does that mean? So now the Gemara is going to remind us of something we had in Yevamos. It says on the side over here, Yevamos daf kuf. So we had to mention of it once upon a time, and now time to chazer. Shmuel, Asar Kohanim owned him. There were 10 Kohanim. We know all of them, all 10 Kohanim. And then one of them had relations with this woman. We know for sure that the father is one of these 10. There's nobody else in question. So for sure the father's a Kohen. Not only is he a Jew, he's even a Kohen. And the kid that's born is surely a Kohen. Got the case?
Yeah.
10 Kohanim in question, and the woman had relations with one of them. We don't know who it is. For sure the kid is kosher.
Right.
He's a Jew, he's even a Kohen.
Right.
But Avlad Shtuki, the child has a status of a Shtuki. Now usually Shtuki means a suffix mamzer. There's no suffix mamzer here because for sure the father's a Kohen. My Shtuki, now you might think that it means that when it comes to inheritance, that he's not eligible to any inheritance. If any of the fathers die, any of these men die, he can't claim any inheritance. Of course he can, because he doesn't know who the father is. Pshita, do we know who the father is? That's not a question. Of course he doesn't get inheritance because he doesn't know who his father is. And even if all of them die, also each one of the inheritors of the fathers could say, "We don't know, prove who you are. Maybe it's not. You're not a son of my father, so he's not eligible to any inheritance." This is the chiddush we had over there in the Yevamos, that he's not allowed to do avoda. He's not allowed to do avoda.
Even though for sure he's a Kohen.
Even though for sure he's a Kohen, because he doesn't know who his father is. He has to have a definite lineage who his father is. Even though for sure his father's a Kohen, still he can't do avoda because we don't know
We don't know like which
who's his
Shmira
father.
or something.
Who's
It's
no.
just a Dugi.
That's another point. We don't know who his
It's
father
just
is.
Dugi.
We just had it recently, right? That was by Pinchas. That it says that him and his seed after him is going to be the kuna for everlasting covenant. But it says to him and his seed after him. So Lazar Achar has to be the seed after him. Only somebody who his seed is attributed to him. But here he doesn't know who his father is. So he doesn't meet that requirement. He's a Kohen, but he can't do avodah.
The shtuki is that just this.
That's all it means. And it's off the subject Lagami. It means
This
the spirit.
is not a takana or anything. This is because it's from pasuk.
So the Gemara within Yevamos says it's only Rabbanan. The Gemara is a kasha on this. The Gemara comes out it's only Rabbanan. The pasuk is only like an asmachta, an umanik, or just something to hint at, but not that it's a
Shtuki
rise.
here just means that we're not allowed to do the avodah.
Right.
It's kosher.
Right. Rashi also says not the truma. I don't remember that in the Gemara over there, but we'll leave it at that. So the Gemara is happy at this point. I mean, the machlokes Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Lazar. If Rabbi Gamliel is also going to be machshir the daughter, also the son or the daughter It comes out, that's Rav pointed out, it's not so nice that it says in the Brisa about Bito. What does it say over here in the Brisa? And it comes out, it's not the Bita, it has to do with the son. The son who came to Avodah is only relevant to the son. So it's a little bigger dochak. First of all, taking it out of the subject of Gamri, we're talking about not about a puzzle man, we're talking about the father's a Kohen, doesn't know which one it is. And also it says Bita, and it means Beno, and the word Shtuki is also not the regular way to say it. So it's a pretty big dochak, but the Gemara accepts it as a possibility that Rabbi Yochanan is still right. I see that the number of the Rambam is here. The Divya Machshaba Bita. Rabbi Gamliel says that the mother is kosher, even the next generation is also kosher. That's fine. It could be true. Like that. This
Says that the daughter is kosher.
to marry a Kohen also, right? As far as
the son in terms of a avodah.
right, he's also a Kohen, but he can't do avodah. The Gemara continues.
I mean, we know he's.
You know he's a Kohen, but he doesn't have this.
Based on like they ask it because of the pasuk in.
So the Gemara says that over there. The Gemara comes out that it's Rabbanan. It's only a smart.
What do you do? Does he serve?
Yeah.
Does he not serve?
No, he can't do avodah. Rabbanan he can't do avodah. New Gemara. Who oris varusaso? The Asur
Obviously, can't receive matnas kuhuna.
over there talks about it. The Gemara talks about over there. I forgot what it says. It talks about over there about getting. I forgot. I'd rather not say. I don't remember. The bottom line. Who oris varusaso? The Asur kamed Rav Yosef. Oris and arusa. We said that doesn't mean engagement. That means that they were kedushin. They're a married couple, but they didn't have nisuin yet. Means
She's
that.
pregnant.
Oh, and she's pregnant. That's a question. How did she become pregnant?
Well, they follow the minhag of Yerushalayim.
Yehuda. So they didn't. And I mean, that's the question. And the Asur Kamedia of Yosef, and they both of them agree that they had relations. So it sounds very nice.
I know.
But it might not be. It might be she had relations out of marriage. Maybe somebody else.
They both agree.
Okay. What, no.
I just want to say that
She's saying the child's from him.
And he's saying, yeah, I had relations with her.
Oh, that's just relations. That's not where who the child was.
He doesn't know who the child. Does he? You know, she might have had relations besides him also. He
Mania means
Right.
we didn't really get mania.
He
Mania.
she says it's from him. We had relations.
It's from him.
The child is a result of the relations that I had from.
That's right.
Yes.
And then what he
Okay.
said-
Who am I? In Mina. Yes, it's from me.
Oh, yeah, I thought I meant
In yes, it's
why'd they go to him then? She's
Because-
pregnant, we want some muscles.
because everyone's saying that they're very suspicious that she's pregnant. Why is she pregnant? Maybe it's
She's
somebody.
still living in her
Maybe it's
father's house.
maybe it's somebody else. And I would say, add on that even if the husband is not lying, even if he's saying the truth, it could be that she had relations with other people also. Just because she had relations with the others.
surely the chazaka is not so. There's too many things against it. I mean, she's still in father's house.
So therefore, what?
Therefore, you have to go with the chazaka.
What's the
That she's kasher. That she's saying the truth.
She's pregnant. So the question is, who's she pregnant from? Is it from the Oros or is it from somebody else? And even if he says that, even if he agrees,
He says,
I wouldn't
yeah,
be, I wouldn't be so impressed because maybe somebody else also had relations with her.
Mhm.
And the Gemara talks about it in Yavamis. The Gemara talks about over there if there's a rumor about that people are talking about her, talking about if they have relations with each other, with other. There's rumors going around. But it is a point that even though he says yes, it's not 100%. It could be that she had relations, even if he's saying the truth. First of all, it could be lying also. It isn't so much that he's lying. If he had no relations, he wouldn't want her, and he wouldn't want to say the kid
The
is
likelihood
his.
is that they are somewhat committed to each other, and the likelihood is that they had a little bit of.
If they know the fact that they're not sure, he's not. They're not going to make a russ at him, and it's not going to make the child puzzle if they had relations even before Nisuin, like you say, like no ra. But the question is that true, or maybe she had relations out of marriage? So, Rav Yosef, Yosef, what's the problem? He said, yeah. Since he agrees, so he gives credence to the fact that he said that he had relations. If he deny it, then it will be an issue that he says it's not from me. So then it's from somebody else. That already machlokes between the husband and the wife, if they had relations or not. But he's modest, so no, you don't have to be choshish. That even if it wouldn't be the husband agreeing, if she says it's from him, from a kosher man, let's say if he's denying it, then it'd be another issue. But let's say he's not around. She comes and says that it's from my arus, from my betrothed. So it's like she's saying it's from the kosher man. There's a question: who is it from? Is it from the puzzle man or from the kosher man? And she says kosher. Here it happens to be only one kosher man in the world. Usually we talk about a single woman, so there are many kosher men and there are many puzzle men. And she says it's from the kosher man, it's from a kosher Jew. But here there's only one kosher man. It's only your husband.
Yeah.
But also that's good enough. If she says it's from the kosher man, she's believed. Amalei Abai said to Yosef, It sounds like there are two reasons. Either reason would have been good enough that he's moda, and even if not, Rabbi Gamliel said, not if he's arguing, but even if he's not around, Rabbi Gamliel said that if she says she's from a kosher man, you could trust. Rabbi Ai says not the same. It's not a good comparison. But I'm sorry, it's not a good comparison.
Wait a minute, we had, Rabbi Yehuda was saying, so in terms of Rabbi Gamliel,
We pass like Rabbi Gamliel, yes, but Abai said not so simple. You're going to say that if he would not be moded, still Rabbi Gamliel is machsher, but we don't pass again so much like Rabbi Gamliel. Let's see. As far as we know so far, we do pass like Rabbi Gamliel. But now comes the new news.
Okay.
Rabbi Shmuel told Rabbi Yehuda, Shinana. Shinana, Rashi always translates it means the sharp one. He called. Some say Shinana means the one with the big teeth. He had big teeth. So halacha Rabbi Gamliel, but atlo savudu the adika Rav Ksherin. Even though we pass like Rav Gamliel, but don't pass him like that to be machsher only if it's Rav Ksherin. Means Rav Gamliel will be machsher even if Rav Psulin, like the one I said before. Man the machsher feel Rav Psulin, even if the whole city is puzzle, all going one Chabad house. Also, if she says it's a kosher, it's kosher. But you, Rabbi Yehuda, don't pass them like that until you have rope sharing. If there's rope people that not like the Moshe, it means even though it's true, even it doesn't say it's not true. It says, but you, we'll see in a second. We'll see in a second that we're gonna still pass it even if the rope suman. But you don't pass it only if there's rope sharing. Only have rope also. So therefore, rope sharing that's law. Okay, one more word over there. I didn't highlight one more word. Sharing that's law. Okay. But the question is over here, here it's not rope sharing that's law because only one kosher man in the whole world, only her husband. Here, you don't have that. Rav Gamliel alone wouldn't be enough to rely on to make the woman or the child kosher because most are apostle. Means only kosher man is only her husband. So if we don't have also another reason, Gamliel alone wouldn't enough to be maker. Rabbi Yosef said back then, what do you mean this thing about Allah like Gamliel, but don't do like that. It doesn't make sense. It itself is contradicting itself. Self-contradictory. That's the halacha, but don't do it. What does that mean? If it's halacha, so do it. He means to say that even though the halacha is like that, so but the chatchila, it means the chatchila, don't be so much on Gamliel's opinion, only if you have a robe also. But the Yeved is okay. That even if the robe psulin, Gamliel says it's kosher even against the robe, even if it's robe psulin. But the chatchila don't rely on that only if you have a robe sharing. But if that's so, in this case that they're married, here's another issue. Till now we're talking about that she's a single girl. And the question is if she can marry a Kohen or not. So L'chatchila don't permit her to a Kohen only if you have a robe. Besides, from Gamliel's opinion, that you listen, you can trust her for the robe also. But here, the primary couple, if you're going to say that B'choshesh is somebody else, she's going to have to get divorced from him. So that's called the case of the Eved already. That's already though. So here, even if it's not, even if it's Rav Gamliel, you don't have a robe, also it's good enough. Do we have a little bit more time?
But did you ever be like it says that even if there's a mute?
Rabbi Shua ben Levi said, no, Chadav's right, that yes, on the page before, highlighted in blue, it said, Rabbi Shua ben Levi says, Rabbi Gamliel, even if rob psulin. That is true. And that's what Yosef is being somchan. But Abai said, you shouldn't do l'chatchila. He said, you're right, l'chatchila not, but b'di'evet, yes. And this is the case of b'di'evet because they'd have to get divorced if you're not going to be somchan on this. We have a couple of minutes more to continue, or we should stop here. Yeah, it's good. I hope that everybody that came on is okay with that, to continue a couple of more minutes. Okay. The Gemara continues. And now it's going to bring in a Mishnah in Edios, which seems to say the opposite of everything we learned. We have in our Mishnah, we have Rabbi Gamliel is the Mekel, and Rabbi Shua is the Machmer. What's the case here? That a woman is pregnant. We don't know where it's from. Rabbi Rabba, Rabbi Shua and Enin Amenes, Minu, hey, Mishnah in Edios, hey, Rabbi Shua, Rabbi Huda ben Beseira, Al Manas Isa, Shikshel Lakuna. There's a thing we're going to do more tomorrow. I don't know myself what it's talking about, but there's something called Al Manas Isa, the widow of a Isa. Isa means a dough. And what does it mean, a widow of a dough? So it means that the dough means that it has a lot of ingredients. You put a flour and water and whatnot. So it means that we have a question. She was married to somebody that we don't know. We don't know exactly his lineage. There's some questionable lineage, which the Gemara is going to talk about tomorrow, I think. What is the questionable lineage? And that's the question. Since she was married to him, she had relations with him, even though they were married. It was a kosher marriage, but we don't know her status. If he was puzzle, let's say a chalal or something like that, so she becomes puzzle. So the question is if she's allowed to marry a Kohen. Almanas Isa, she's the widow of somebody that we don't know. Call it alman of a suffix. She's a widow of a man who's a suffix that we don't know who he is. I don't know enough to explain more because that's tomorrow's Gemara. There's the bottom of the page says Tanu Rabbanan Ezel Almanas Isa. So we'll get there tomorrow.
We don't know his lineage.
We don't know. Right, he's something question.
Whatever it is, she can marry.
He might have been a chalal.
That's right. Even though he might have been a puzzle, and she was his widow, means that she had relations with him. And if he's puzzle, then she became puzzle.
And she can't-
She's allowed to marry a Kohen. And who's talking? Of all people, Rabbi Yeshua.
Oh,
Rabbi Yeshua is the one who's machmir by us, and he says that a woman that we don't know who's the father is, who is the Boel, it's the one who's most machmir. Said even if you don't know that relationship, he's really machmir today. Even though Ksherin, and even if we don't know that she had relations, and still he says that she's puzzle. And there, Rabbi Yeshua says that there's a suffix on who her husband was, and she's allowed to go ahead and marry a Kohen. Sounds like a contradiction. Amalei. So who said back to this? This was a bayit to Rabbi. Rabbi answered, what's the comparison? Hasam Misha Nises, Bodekas Venises, Isha Mazana, Bodekas Mazana. Oh, that's like a question.
what's
That-
Bedukas?
Bodekas, a woman gets married, so she investigates before she gets married. What's his
So the
status?
fact that she's married already gives her.
That marriage, that marriage, she's a widow, means that was a marriage. She
She's a
wasn't
widow,
stopped.
but once somebody's married, there's a.
No, not
Bedukas.
because not because she was married. The fact that she married him, how did she become a widow? Because she was married.
Yeah,
When she married him, we could assume that she investigated who she's marrying.
that's what I was trying to say. That's what Bodekas means.
She investigates before she gets married.
Yeah.
So therefore, we can assume, even though we don't know, we have some kind of question on this guy. He's a Isa. We call him a. But that subject, we could say that she investigated and she was satisfied enough that she got married. So we'll say that she did a good job on the investigation, and we'll trust her investigation. But over here, there's case of znus, that she was mazana. So she doesn't do investigation before she's mazana. So therefore, it could be a good chance that he's
So why
puzzled.
does he use the word Bodekas? That's what I'm hearing.
What's bothering you?
Bodekas and Mazana.
Bodekas a mazana.
I see.
Bodekas a mazana. That's the way to say
I
it.
see.
If she
Well,
bodekas,
the-
before she gets married, she investigates who she's marrying. Before she's mazana, does she investigate? No, she doesn't. So therefore, there's more chash that he might be a puzzle. So that's the way to reconcile Rabbi Yeshua. Even though by marriage, if she's married to somebody, we could trust that she married somebody after investigation, and therefore, even though we don't know who he is, but she probably found out who he is and that he's kosher. Even though I don't know how she found out more than us, but she found out. But by Miznus, Rabbi Yeshua is machmir because she doesn't do an investigation.
So we can keep in mind.
So we have.
We can consider this isn't a stereo. This
Right, it's not right. We reconcile the contradiction, even though over there, Bishop is Mako, here he's Muslim. It wasn't a question of Znus, the only question about who is the guy. So if she was married to him, we could rely on her investigation. I'm a Rava, but Rabbi Yeshua Kasha, Kasha, you're only bothered by the contradiction in Rabbi Yeshua. Look further in the mission over there. You'll see Rabbi Gamliel also contradicts himself. Baktani Sefer, Amalan Rabbi Gamliel said to Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, Kibalnu Veduschem, we accept your testimony that Amona Sisa is kosher, but still you have to be machmir. Yes. That even though Amona Sisa is kosher to marry a Kohen, but the Yochanan Mezakeh says not to make a bezdin to permit her to marry a Kohen. The Kohen, they listen to be machmir, not to be mekel. So they don't want to marry such a woman who's Amona Sisa, and therefore they stop doing it. So even though Rabbi Gamliel agrees that with the Raisa you could assume that Amon Asi says allowed to marry a Kohen, but the Maaseh says not to. And in our Mishnah, he was the one who was Mekel and said that the woman who was a suffix if she was Mazana, even Mazana, she's found pregnant, you're allowed to assume that the husband was kosher. So why doesn't he contradict himself? Over kosher to Kohen over there in our Mishnah. In our Mishnah, he's the one who's Mekel. Here he's Machmir, even more than Rabbi Yeshua. They switched each other, like Hamdar said, they switched positions. Here Rabbi Yeshua is more Mekel, which is more got through, but here you see that Rabbi Gamliel is more Machmir. And in our Mishnah, he was Mekel. Ella Amirava, so Rava says a new teretz to answer both of them. Hasam Bori, Acha Shema. Over there, Hasam the Gemara over here means by us for some reason. Hasam means us. Hasam means there, but there is our Mishnah, and Hacha means the Mishnah in Edios, which we just brought down now. In our case, in the case of our Mishnah, she says, "I know who it is." She's found pregnant, and we don't know who the husband is, who the father is, who the boil is. And she says, I know who it is. The reason why Rabbi Gamliel is lenient is because she says she knows who it is. But over there, by the Almana Sisa, over there, she doesn't know who it is. She doesn't know the story. She doesn't know if it's kosher. She doesn't, a second ago, the Gemara said she investigates. That was the first error. Rav doesn't go like
Rabbi
that.
doesn't know that way.
Yeah, Rav doesn't know like that. And he says that over there, the reason why we're machmir is because it's a shema. Rabbi Gamliel is machmir over there because she doesn't help us out.
And we worried about, and the Kohanim are machmir. not to
Right, but
take,
here that she
woman
says that she knows who it is.
sliced up.
Right, good. But here she tells us that she knows who it is. There, Rabbi Gamliel is makel, and even if the Kohanim were not machmir on that. And now they can't answer the answer before about now he just disagreed with the terroristic Gemara before that she investigates. Here it says Shema that she doesn't know herself. So how come Rabbi Shua is makel over there more than our Mishnah? Rabbi Shua Nami Lokasha Hasam Chad Sveki Hacha Trei Sveki. On our Mishnah, there's one suffix. Why? Because why is there only one suffix? If he's kosher apostle,
This is with the Benuya, right?
right? I thought there was one suffix because she's pregnant. She is pregnant. And the question only is from who is she pregnant? So that's only called one suffix. But here, the case of Ramana Sisa is two sfekes, which we don't know it yet. What is the case of Ramana Sisa? It's called two sfekes, we don't know yet. But the more telling us there's two sfekes. This first thing about how some chat sfeka, that's the whole sukkah we had today. Was it one suffix? Even if it was only Nistera, even if it was only we don't know if they had relations, also Rabbi Shua's machmir. So this needs explanation still. Why is it only called one suffix? But the Gemara is saying Rabbi Shua's machmir when there's one suffix. If there are two suffixes, he's also going to be mekel. And the Gemara sums it up. We'll go over this again tomorrow. Hilchach, that's not the 5 lines. Hilchach Rav Gamliel, Olam leBori, Dafilu b'chad sfeik anami machshir, V'kilei Shema, Dafilu b'suffix sfeik anami pasuk. Rav Gamliel, he gives weight to the Bori. And if she says she knows what she knows, she's kosher, that gives us a lot of weight. And even if it's only one suffix, we should definitely have relations. Only question is kosher apostle. Because he knows who it is, we rely on her. But if she doesn't know who it is, then even if it's a svek, like the case of Amana Sisa, we're going to say B'machmir. But Rabbi Shua keeps saying, Rabbi Shua Olam leichad sveka. There. The afilu b'bori nami person. He doesn't care about the bori. If there's one suffix, he's going to be machmir in our Mishnah, even if she's bori. The killer is svek sveka. The afilu b'shama nami mach. It's the case of the Amana Sisa, which we'll see more tomorrow. Okay, Yashikoach. And we'll be getting back onto Pirkei Avos in 2 minutes. Thank you.
You got out for